and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Now, I'm more than happy to introduce our guest. So, ladies and gentlemen, we here at Heartlands Media support citizen journalists and independent media. We're seeing a rise of more citizen journalists all across this country and people speaking truth to power. But yet, sadly, especially in this day and age of massive censorship, many of these content creators are dealing with suppression, being silenced, but they're still pushing back, fighting back. And returning onto our show is someone who is aggressive, unapologetic, ready to speak truth to power. I'm very glad to reintroduce to all of you Nick Cruse, also known as SocialistMMA of the Revolutionary Blackout Network. Nick, thank you so much for being on our show. There's a lot to unpack, especially and talk about as we are entering into the second months of 2022. Thank you so much for being onto our show. How are you doing? Nick, I must apologize, my friend. Unfortunately, we can't hear you.
I think we got it fixed now. Always good to be on Heartlands Media. Glad to see you, kid. Should be a good conversation.
Of course. So, hey, let's start off the conversation with this. And I wish my colleague Kira was here. The Democrats. That's it. That's the end of the interview. There we go. That's all we can do. We can smile, laugh, and walk off set. No. Come on. Let's be real serious about this. The Democrats. Throughout all of 2021, we've been seeing them make these promises. They've been telling us to wait, keep our powder dry, let's be calm, let's not cause a ruckus. But now we're into 2022. No Medicare for all, no UBI, no Federal Jobs Guarantee Act. We're still seeing funding for, I guess, police corruption, more abuse of powers. I mean, recently, Jason Van Dyke was just released after serving after 3 years of his 7-year sentence. This is the same Jason Van Dyke who shot Laquan McDonald, 16 shots in a cover-up, and also Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who's also a Democrat. His administration helped cover up that shooting. And yet we're seeing less accountability. We're seeing the more continuation by Democrats continuing on with Trump's policies. When it comes down to the Democratic Party at this point, yeah, and especially when you've been calling them out on social media, what's left to say about this political organization that says they care about people, but they're still more than happy to sell us down the river and just say, that's it, but be sure to vote for us next election?
Yeah, all the people who got upset at me because I refused to vote for Jim Crow Joe, and I was making a concerted effort to get people out of the Democrat Party. I wasn't one of the people that was like, oh, I think you should vote your conscience. No, I was making a conscious effort to tell people to leave the two-party duopoly. Now, especially after the California healthcare debacle, where the Democrats had supermajority, like progressive Democrats, they all ran on Medicare for all. It's not like they were Claire McCaskill Democrats, right? It's not like they were Hakeem Jeffrey Democrats. These were the coalition of Democrats that ran on Medicare for all, and they still refused to give you that. And then when you look at the fact that Joe Biden, when you look at every metric in terms of COVID cases, COVID deaths, ICE detentions, genocides funded, the police being funded more, healthcare outcomes, the homelessness population, every single aspect that you can measure a leader by, he's just been objectively worse than Trump. Not because he had worse intentions than Trump. This is what happens when you have the Democratic Party in charge. They will kill all your movements while propping up the right wing and making a stronger national security state that will implement white supremacy in the way that Republican parties dreamed they could. So not only is it harmful to vote for the Democratic Party, you continue to sell out our communities by doing so. And that was my message in 2020. A lot of people thought I was being over dramatic, but now that we in 2022 in the Biden administration, now things are getting worse. People are starting to wake up to this fact. And that's why our channel, your channel, and people who are actually telling the truth about Democrats, we are growing because people want to see the truth instead of people who are still sheep herding people to that party, even though there's no chance of any progress being done. Right? I'll pass it back to you, kid.
Well, you know, here's the thing, because I'm glad you said that, because the amount of pushback I have received when I have said, look, I'm done voting Democrat. I can't do it. They always keep on losing. They give me excuses. There's no charge. There's always hold and wait. We're not ready. Oh, we got this excuse and that excuse. And maybe it's my former years of being a Marine, where it's just like, okay, we're here. We may not have everything. Let's go ahead and charge. Let's do something. Let's do something. And yet we keep seeing nothing happen. And now we're seeing the Democrats begging people to vote for them again in 2022. And what really has enraged me, especially on social media, but of course when you're on social media, especially on the sewage pipeline known as Twitter, when you are bringing facts, and I want to just say everyone who's working at the Revolutionary Blackout Network, when you're calling out the Democrats and how they've abandoned black and brown communities, abandoned the kids that are still in cages, how they are, again, continuing the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex. The Democrats are doing this, and the people who we elected to raise the ruckus are just following along and going to be the next successors of the neoliberal nightmare. But when you guys, especially in Revolutionary Blackout Network, keep calling out the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party, what we see is their sycophants, or the people who carry water for them, mostly attacking you guys. And these are mostly white liberals who think that they know better than anyone else that's actually right now living it and seeing it firsthand. So with this pushback that you're seeing, what will it take for people to wake up when they realize that the Democrats will still abandon them, even if they get, in the rarest case, I don't see that happening during the midterms, a supermajority. Let's say in this 2022 they get a supermajority, but yet still nothing happens. What further can you do to awaken people's minds the fact that they're still going to be sold out?
I remember when I was talking to CJ in Rome about starting a black network. The reason why we did it because we felt like our political voices was being shut out by all corners of the political spectrum, right? You have the neoliberal class, MSNBC. They will only hire the Dr. Jason Johnsons. They will only hire the Joy-Ann Reeds. And then you had the TYT left, the progressives. They will only have people, milquetoast, black fucking shit lives like Tim Black, Ben Dixon. So when you talk to like real black Marxists and anti-establishment people, our voices was never in the discourse until very recently. You got to be the change you want to see, right? So I'm like, all right, there's no real spokesman for us, so I got to do it. And there are a lot of great, amazing white allies like yourself, and a lot of great white allies I made throughout the course of being in this sphere. But there's only so much that you guys can push back on. Now, I'm going to explain that here very soon, because when we come out and we tell people that the Democratic Party is the party of white supremacy, when I tell you that you are anti-black if you vote for the Democratic Party, I'm not saying the reality of the situation, it means more when I say it than when you say it, right? And if you say it, you know how the liberals are. They immediately start playing identity politics. Oh, you just don't want people to vote for the Democratic Party because you're racist. Or you're just some white guy who wanted to advance the Republican Party. But it's different, honestly, when you have a group of black leftists come out against the political strategy of the progressives and the Democratic Party. Because now it's like, oh, these are the people you claim you fight for. And they're saying that, oh, you're not the leader anymore. So when you had these people who were dominating the media sphere that was telling people, oh, we got to vote for the Democratic Party. We got to vote for Joe Biden. We got to vote for Hillary Clinton because they're the lesser of two evils. We have black leftists like us that know their record and know what they've done to the black community. Like, will Sam Cedar, will Jake Uger, will they tell you that? No, because they have no connection to community. And once again, I've seen great allies like yourself and many other white leftists who refuse to vote for the Democratic Party make those arguments, but you guys are dismissed, right? So the reason why we wanted to create our black network, because we are now putting a voice out there that a lot of people are not used to hearing, period. And they can't dispute it. That's why I'm glad that we do that we had the opportunity to do what we're doing now. And that's what we're going to tell people in 2022. While a lot of people are going to try and tell people to vote for the Democratic Party, I'm telling you, that's not only is that a waste of resources, you are actively selling us out by doing that when the Democratic Party they're running on the new Jim Crow. They're running on the police state being bigger. And I'll pass right back to you, kid, but you actively hurt us when you do that, right?
Well, no, I'd like you to continue on, but I want to just point out just a few things, because one thing in particular, when you said, when we've called out when I've called the Democratic Party, I have been called racist and bigoted. And I'm trying to tell people, well, wait a minute. No, you don't understand. Joe Biden, he worked with segregationists. He was against busing and desegregation. This is a man who verbally abused Anita Hill. This is the guy who said he Bill Clinton, and take this with a grain of salt, Bill Clinton apologized for the crime bill. Joe Biden will never even do that. Joe Biden is proud of the crime bill. And I try to explain this to a lot of people. And it's like, no, well then you're just being closed-minded, or you're secretly a Republican. I'm like, no, I'm not going to vote Republican. I'm going to vote third party. I'll do something else. I won't vote for a crap sandwich and then a crap hot dog. I'm not going to do that stuff. I'm not going to contribute to that nightmare. And I'm glad the Revolutionary Blackout Network is out there speaking this, because I've noticed something. A lot of the white liberals are quick to be quiet, or some of your harshest are like, well, wait a minute, maybe you don't know the full facts. They keep saying that, but the way they then come with these weak defense, thank goodness there's Revolutionary Blackout Network to actually call out the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. Because if your voice is not heard, we are not going to get out of this two-party nightmare that we're in, because more people got to wake up to that fact. So I just wanted to just add it in there. But another thing too I want to bring up, a while ago, you guys sent us the invite to be part of the 3-day General Strike Summit meeting. Heartland's media was part of it, as were numerous other people who were there to contribute to it. But yet there was pushback from people like TYT, Hassan Piker, for example. And it's the same person with a large platform who was then talking down about mutual aid and disrespecting everything that the work that all of you were putting into the 3-day General Strike Summit meeting, and even against the March for Medicare for All as well. How do we keep on building this network up, this movement, even though you have these people that claim that they're allies, but yet talking down about actually trying to implement change? Because that's something I've really been trying to figure out. You have people like Hassan or TYT or Majority Report say that they care about the issues, but in all reality, they don't, and they still tell you to vote Democrat.
So everything that happened during 2021, like, exposed the whole like nonsense about why we shouldn't have left infighting. Like, what is left infighting, right? So if you're like Hassan Piker, if you're one of the people that are speaking out against a general strike summit, if you're speaking out against workers organizing and marching for healthcare, you're not an ally. And if you vote for the Democratic Party, why are you doing this? You're really not an ally. Now, if you're standing shoulder to shoulder with us, marching in the streets, I can show you a lot more leniency. But I've been going after TYT, the Pac-Mans, the Cedars, the Pikers, because I see them not only defending the Democratic Party, that would be one thing, but they attack activists in order to defend the honor of the politicians, because their message is trust the politicians, distrust the activists, distrust your neighbors, be afraid of your neighbors, and just support top-down organizations like the Justice Democrats. So that was a giant revealing moment. And I think in 2022 and 2021, we learned that this giant movement that we had with the Bernie campaign, where we thought there was this giant anti-establishment left movement, that was actually kind of an illusion. It was filled with a lot of people who actually really lib-minded, but they just so happened to want healthcare or student loan debt. But they're not willing to fight for it. To the point now, after learning from our mistakes, if you say you're for Medicare for All, like, that almost means nothing to me now. Like, when you say you're for cancel student loan debt, that means nothing to you now. I want to see what you want to do to fight for it. And if you're running in the Democratic Party, if you're propping on Democrats, that's a sign that you're not willing to fight for it, right? And one more thing, we always harp on the class divide, because the people that have been dominating the main progressive think on the left have been like the giant channels, right? You see a new change with more channels like yours and mine popping up. But if you look at like the TYT, the Majority Reports, the Hassan Pikers, the people that attack mutual aid and general strikes and the concept of organizing building, you notice that these people are millionaires. And I don't understand why people don't understand that. Like, if you're a millionaire, you had healthcare, you're more likely to criticize the concept of marching for Medicare for All. You're more likely to call for incrementalism. If you're a millionaire, you're more likely to advocate for the path of the Democratic Party, even though they fund the police state more. And people like Cedar, they give up the game when asked about it by Jackson. He said he don't care. He don't care about the State Department getting funding. He don't care about the cops being funded more. So over the course of like leaving the Bernie left, the progressive left, which I used to be a proud member of, I realized that, oh shit, there's not only class divide between the liberals and progressives, there's a class divide between the progressives. Like, you got the privileged progressives who they live on the altar of incrementalism, and they push back against any lower class who advocate for radical policies that will disrupt their bourgeoisie career or their Democratic Party grift. And this was not an easy conclusion to come to, kid. Like, I used to believe in the Bernie message. I used to like, man, the progressive takeover I used to be like all for it. So this analysis I'm giving you is not something that I'm happy to say. But and especially when I'm talking to global South anarchists and socialists, like my great friend Josana, I'm gonna have Luna Oy on March 19th, talking to Vietnamese communists. I'm talking to professors in Hong Kong and China. And I'm looking at the left in other countries, and in the global South, they are securing electoral victories. They are defeating neoliberalism in the global South. They have destroyed U.S. imperialism in Vietnam, and the Chinese and Eastern social communists have done that. So when I see what they've done and compared to what we have done, I see the lack of revolutionary discipline. That's why I'm having more of these conversations, because I honestly gave up on the United States level quite a while. Like after Super Tuesday, seeing anything that happened. So I'll pass right back to you, kid.
Well, I remember in 2016 when we were just getting started off, Daniel Lupker and we actually snuck inside the Wells Fargo Center when the day Hillary Clinton was to become the nominee. We walked through the front door. The security there was a lot of security there, but two guys from Chicago just snuck in through the front door. And I remember seeing firsthand, Bernie Sanders supporters and Green Party people being assaulted and spit on by obviously Hillary Clinton supporters. There was verbal abuse, physical abuse happening. And it was something that I was very shocked to see. And I thought, and maybe at that moment, okay, this is what it will take for the progressive movement, apologies for that, movement to actually unite, break away, and something can happen. And when Clinton lost in 2016 to Trump, I felt that there was a chance. I had hope, the audacity of hope. And in 2020, especially with everything that was happening, the buildup after 2018, I had this hope that maybe the Bernie Sanders campaign would be ready. They would be ready for everything that they went through, all the lessons they learned in 2016. And as that election happened, especially at that key Super Tuesday that you mentioned, when Obama made that phone call, I knew then that was it, that Bernie was not going to push back, even though he had enough to really actually push back against Biden. He didn't do it. He kept calling Biden his good friend, his good pal, and I was trying to think, no, you're trying to attack. When you're in politics, you're in a fight. Your whole goal isn't to hug your opponent. You got to knock them out. You can't hug them. You must punch them. You must knock them out. And it didn't happen. And it was a cruel reality. And as soon as Biden was the nominee, because let's face it, there was election fraud in 2020, similar to 2016.
Oh yeah, I have no faith. I have literally no faith in these elections at all. And if you do, you're a chump. Like, especially after witnessing, like, I was on the ground. I was in South Carolina. I was in Iowa. Like, bro, if you believe in our elections, it's a giant joke. And I quickly want to bring us on in regard to what you're saying here. And when I did my reaction to Nina launching her campaign, I saw her ad. I'm tired of the happy-go-lucky bullshit progressive leader. And when you see Bernie say stuff like "Biden, my good friend," people don't understand. This is toxic positivity. Like, the stakes could not be higher. And you call him Biden your friend? The progressives are playing nice with the Democrats. And then I saw Nina's ad, and she's showing like stock videos of people laughing in hospitals, people being happy and seeing great change. Like, you guys are not matching the energy of the country at all. No. And Chris Hedges spoke of 2016, like you were saying, and he told Dr. Cornel West that when Bernie chose to endorse Hillary Clinton, that was probably one of the biggest tragedies in the modern workers movement, because that was a giant missed opportunity. Like, we would be in a completely different political position, period. Like, who knows what society would look like. And Bernie in 2016 decided to walk out, right? The convention.
I was hoping for that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was hoping for that. I was hoping for that. I wanted to see that. I was like, there's a lot here. There should be enough. He could do this. And I was disappointed. That's what happened. I still to this day, because Daniel and I, we made a road trip. There was a few of us. We made a road trip over there to Philly. We did it on our own. We didn't know what we were doing. We're getting, you know, just this is before Harlan's media even became a thought. And the amount of disappointment, the stories were all the same because we spoke to people off the record who were delegates, who were volunteers of the campaign, and how the Democratic Party and Clinton supporters and Clinton people were stalking people, assaulting them physically and mentally, you know, doing everything they can to prevent anything. And Bernie, the commander, quiet as this was happening to his people. And now as we enter 2022, we're supposed to expect the same progressives like AOC and Pramila Jayapal to say, you know, hey, you know, you guys got to vote blue. You got to help us this time. We got to outmaneuver Cinema and Manchin. And it's just, no, you're not going to do it. And anytime any one of us speaks out against them, there's automatic, oh, you're being violent, you're being sexist, you're being misogynist, you're being racist, you're being this and that and everything else. And it's this cancel culture that's silencing those that are trying to speak truth to power. And the movement won't survive if it's attached to the Democratic Party. That's a fact. Sad fact.
And they know that. They just don't, like, when you look at the professional boutique left, like the people who ran the internal campaign, think about how much money they made. Like think about how much money like the TYT left made just covering that, right? There's a industrial complex around electoral politics that no one will ever let go. The biggest thing, like once again, the domino effect, we will never really know. We can only theorize. But we see how radicalized people are now. The people willing to join strike. You got workers striking everywhere right now. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the domino effect that would occur in 2016 if Bernie Sanders refused to endorse Hillary Clinton? And then the progressives, they already fear-monger and say, oh my God, it would have been the media attacking him. Bernie would have been the next Rolf Nader, which he would have. Don't get me wrong. Bernie definitely would have been treated like Rolf Nader. But the people who don't understand the significant differences, like look at Bernie Sanders' email list. AOC has 12.7 million followers. My response is, you challenge them. Go ahead and make us Rolf Nader. Go ahead, ask the question of why you won't endorse Hillary Clinton. Because if you do that, the media will attack you en masse.
Yeah.
But you have an army that is willing to go to bat for you.
More than an army, it's a legion. Let's be very clear on that.
Absolutely.
What you have is what AOC and Bernie have is technically a legion. They won't do it. And the thing is, if you're so afraid of the media yelling at you and smearing you, you know, take the words of Tyrion Lannister when he was talking to Jon Snow. They call you a bastard. Wear it like armor and it can't hurt you. Wear their insults like armor and it can't hurt you. Look at Trump. He gets insulted all the time. He wears it like armor. You can't offend him. If Bernie and AOC actually had a backbone, which they don't, wear the insults like armor and be like, yeah, and you need us more than we need you. And I want to quickly bring this up because I want to give a few more minutes for this because I've been noticing too that there has been this massive amount of suppression towards Revolutionary Blackout Network on social media. YouTube, let's face it, Heartland's Media, we got hit with 5 strikes. We've been able to recover. It's been a slow recovery. But when it comes down to content creators like yourself, and let's be very clear here, the way YouTube has its system, it's bigoted. The algorithm is bigoted. And it's racist towards content creators who are not. We're back, we're live. All right, folks, sorry about that. I guess people didn't like what we were talking about. Sorry about that. All right, so, Nick, as I was saying before, something wanted to interrupt me from what I was trying to say. YouTube has this weird algorithm that's very bigoted and racist towards content creators like yourself. And now more than ever, there's this massive wave of suppression. How do we push back against it? And more importantly, what are your thoughts, especially with the way YouTube has been silencing voices like yourself and your colleagues at Revolutionary Blackout Network? I know Sabby Sabs has talked about it. She recently did a live stream about where Kyle Kalinske was, oh my God, there's a suppression. Well, no doubt, Kyle, the sky's blue and the water's wet. We've gone through it 5 times here at Heartlands Media. I only can imagine what all of you have gone through at Revolutionary Blackout Network and other colleagues like at Mikasa Sukasa and so much, and others. I just want to get your thoughts on this suppression and censorship that we're seeing towards independent media, because what I want to see is more citizen journalists like yourself all across this country stand up and speak out.
Yeah, there's so many people that are stuck in the past when they talk about politics right now. The information war that's going on right now is probably one of the biggest things that worth discussion. Obviously, new Cold War, the information war, because there was this new technology, the new boom of the internet, which caused a wave of anti-establishment thought. And I'm a young millennial. I still remember when the internet first really became big, and I was thinking this is an incredible opportunity for working class and anti-establishment minds to connect. But the ruling class have done a much better job at adjusting to this new age of information than we give them credit for. We see the collusion between the big tech oligarchs in our state, which is collusion between corporation and state, which is otherwise known as fascism. But now we see them dictating and controlling speech. And when it comes to our channel, we've been suppressed. Luckily, I got 60,000 followers on Twitter. I knew a lot of you people that helped platform me. If it wasn't for my Twitter following, yourself, Jimmy Dore,
Jimmy Dore, there you go.
Yeah, Redacted Tonight. There's a lot of great people who helped us by platforming us, right? If it wasn't for that, we would have no chance. And we would have had no chance. And it's almost impossible to start a channel now, especially if you want to talk about anything of substance. They will suppress you. And I definitely have noticed this, especially being a Black Marxist, anti-capitalist content creator. There are times where I have fun streams where I'm talking shit, and then people will find those, right? But I would do a video talking about how the police prop up white supremacy. I'll do a video about why we are over reparations. I'll do a video about the war crimes of the Biden administration. And those videos are hidden from people, right? So it's these are the suppression tactics they do on top of the mass banning that we have seen on our allies in the media. And in response to your question, how do we fight it? There's just many theories. There's not a direct answer to this. It's almost impossible to think about how we fight against the big tech oligarchy. The only answer I really have is us coming together and creating our own network that's kind of independent from theirs. Right now, we're still relying on YouTube and Google as a platform, but we can't have this individual mindset where we only promote ourselves. We only care about our brand. I think we can help defeat social media censorship by standing in mass solidarity with each other. So, and that's what we saw with the General Strike Summit. I've seen people, there were a lot of different networks, a lot of different citizen journalists who I know didn't like each other. And that's why I have a lot of love and respect for everyone who attended, because I know for a fact there were people that was part of that event who did not like each other. But that mass solidarity event, this mass connection must happen. So if a channel gets censored, you got my back. Another network got our back, right? We can't allow ourselves to become isolated and divided, because that allows them to censor us. But we all stand united as a network. They can't censor us all. They can't shut down all methods of discussion. And that's why, I've seen you said this multiple times, and I have said the same. I want to see more independent media. There's not enough. If we black out the internet with content, how could the corporate media and big tech censor that? Right? I see people say there's too much content. No, there's not. No, there's not. We're not even close to enough content. If there's this massive flooding of the waves, this massive complex that debunks both the Fox and neoliberal corporate media apparatus, they won't have an answer. So that's the only solution I have. We have Revolutionary Blackout Network, which is a Black network, which is dominated by Black voices. But I have said many times, I would love to see a Latino version of that. I would love to see an indigenous version of that. I would love to see many different versions of that as possible, right? So that's the only answer I have. And that's the biggest thing we got to focus on. The people who fight pushing for censorship, the people who are pushing for the prosecution of Julian Assange, the fight against free speech and journalism as a whole is a giant problem.
Well, see, the thing is, here's the thing. Your answer is the correct answer. I want to see more citizen journalists too. When we started Heartlands Media, we were looking around. There was no independent media network in the city of Chicago, and we started off in the sidewalks. And now Heartlands Media does national shows, and then we got our other YouTube channel called Chicago Corner. That's only directed on Chicago stories, Chicago politics. And as we continue to grow, we want to do more actually on the ground field reporting and everything else. We want that to happen. Obviously, the way YouTube and everything else is present, it's going to take time. But I want to see more citizen journalists. And the thing is, for those who are actually watching this conversation between you and me, Nick, yes, this might seem overwhelming. yes, this might seem challenging. Yes, it looks difficult. But the thing is, you're needed. Because I don't know what's happening in the state of Wyoming. I don't know what's happening in the state of Texas. I don't know what's happening in the state of Florida or New York or Miami or not Miami City. I screwed that up. I meant Maine. Boy, I was. Yeah, I screwed that up right there. Or Hawaii or Alaska or anywhere else. The thing is, we need to see more citizen journalists to start speaking out, and actually we need to hear more different perspectives. And I'm all for free speech. Now, of course, they're going to say, well, wait, if you're for free speech, does that mean you want to hear even the bad people speak? No, obviously I don't. But if they're going to be speaking hate speech or violence, well, we hold them accountable, because I believe the world is filled with good people. And if there's more citizen journalists, we can do that. And I want to hear your perspective. What I don't like, what enrages me, is when I see a channel taken down. I don't like that, because I know that then that means it can happen to me or any other of my fellow colleagues. It was in the independent media spectrum that we are in. We need to have free speech. We need more independent journalists. We need more citizen journalists out there speaking truth to power. So I think as we are wrapping up this interview, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, my friend, because you're doing your own programming as well. I want to at least ask you, especially for our viewers, is there any kind of projects that are going to be happening in the future that our viewers and subscribers can help contribute to? Where can they go online to find you on social media? Because that 3-day General Strike Summit meeting, we were glad to participate in it. If there's anything else like that in the future, Hardlens Media would be honored to stand in solidarity and follow Revolutionary Blackout Network for anything else like that matter.
Yeah. Hardlens Media and Revolutionary Blackout, we stand in solidarity, 100% allies in the struggle. So we got a lot of great plans, and you definitely gonna be a part of it. But one thing I want to say before I get into that, I want everyone to know that reject the premise that comes out mostly in the United States, where they always say you need to. What's the best way to put it, right? Like, only certain people can be journalists. This is like the messaging that come out from the establishment narrative. Like, if you're a journalist, if you work for the New York Times, you're a journalist if you work for the Washington Post. You're a journalist if you work for CNN or the Chicago Tribune, right? Reject that premise. Everyone is a citizen journalist. I'm lucky enough to have a platform. But if you can share your story to 5 to 10 people, you are a citizen journalist. Anyone who can share a story is a citizen journalist. That's why them going after Julian Assange, they justify that because they said Julian Assange is not a reporter. Julian Assange is not a journalist. Yes, he is. Yes. Not only is Julian Assange is a journalist, anyone who can relay information to someone else is a journalist. That's why I call myself a citizen journalist, and we need more citizen journalists, even if you're not a YouTuber. If you witness what's going on, if you know a crime against humanity that's going on, and you share that to people, you are a journalist. We need more of that. So with that said, we try to promote as many citizen journalists we can on our channel. The next big event that we plan near the end of March. We want to have an International Solidarity Summit. The same way that we had a General Strike Summit, we want to have a summit where we invite a lot of different anti-war minds, a lot of different anti-imperialist minded people to discuss how we resist this giant U.S. empire, NATO, that's going on. Like, there's a giant Western complex that pushing for a Cold War. There are prison journalists, like we mentioned, Assange. That's a coordinated effort between U.S. Neoliberal establishment and the U.K. Establishment as well. So our next summit is inviting speakers on from a lot of different countries, a lot of different anti-war journalists as well, to discuss and game plan how do we fight against this giant war machine, which is not just the U.S. guys. I want you guys to know it's Israel, the UK. Like, this is a giant Western apparatus. So that's our next big event. But you guys can check us out on Revolutionary Blackout on YouTube. Most people know me as SocialistMMA on Twitter, also on YouTube as well. Make sure you guys show some love. We upload every single day. Sabby had an episode that she did today. I will have Caleb Moppin on Saturday. On my Saturday show on Revolutionary Blackout. So check us out. I appreciate you having us on, kid. Love the work that you do. Like I said, we definitely allies in the struggle. So we've been in contact with you with a lot of different events we have planned. We got a very ambitious year. Like,
as you should, as should all of us, especially. Yep. But I think there's also a question for you on Rockfin. So I want to go ahead and acknowledge this. One last a few minutes of your time. We got Roger Meadows on Rockfin, who tipped $2. Nick, you know of Missouri's government's failure to repeal the expansion of Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, that Missouri voters passed via ballot initiative. Why not file one in your state for Missouri Medicare for All and use your platform to help boost and give light to it? May 8th is the deadline to qualify for signature petitions to get initiatives on the Missouri ballot this November. We need more states like Missouri who allow ballot initiatives to put heat on state governments who don't do ballot initiatives.
Yeah, I'm glad they highlighted this. And I spoke about this quite a few times where when people ask me, like, what value do electoral politics have? And I always give this number around, like, you should maybe invest only about 15% of your energy in electoral politics. That number is subjective, but the rest of it goes to mutual aid, community building. So if you ask me, what does that 15% entails? That 15% entail ballot initiative. Ballot initiative is one of the few valuable aspects of electoral politics. And being in Missouri, we had Medicaid expansions. We had medical marijuana that was approved because of ballot initiatives. And when we had the Medicaid expansion, it's very funny. So we are this insanely red state, right? Insanely red state. Our state voted via ballot initiative to increase the minimum wage and expand Medicaid when Trump won, when Josh Hawley defeated Claire McCaskill. Claire McCaskill was running to Josh Hawley right on economics and immigration. But the red state of Missouri, now think about what the liberals say, kid. These are the deplorables. These are the unhinged conservatives that we should never work with under any circumstance. The red state of Missouri voted for a Medicaid expansion, increased wages, and they gave medical marijuana legalization. Now we hope to get full-fledged legalization here soon. This shows that when asked, people know what is in their best interest. So that's, to me, where all our energy should go in terms of electoral politics at this point. It's ballot initiative because we don't need politicians to get stuff done. Now, what happened in Missouri, in the most recent election, we actually voted on a ballot proposal to expand Medicaid. Remember, conservatives want healthcare. I want you guys to know that. So the Republicans in Missouri rallied together and in an anti-democratic way, our Governor Pearson struck that down as unconstitutional. But then recently, and I reported this on my show a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court struck that down. Isn't that crazy? So the people voted for a Medicaid expansion. The Republicans blocked it, but now the Supreme Court was like, no, you can't do that. Wow. So now we got Medicaid expansion. How many people talk about that on their show? How many people have? I talked about this. So instead of telling people to just vote blindly for Democrats, I'm all for the idea of telling people to vote for ballot initiatives.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's my little anecdote I want to add to that. And to answer the last part of this question, yes, I want to do everything I can to help ballot initiatives in Missouri. Everyone can do more. I always can do more, and anyone who can give me feedback on how I can do more is welcome. I am if you think like, oh, Nick, you should be doing this, I'm welcome to hear that. I've been following ballot initiatives to get marijuana legalized for quite a long time. There's talks that may happen now. So trust me, I am going to be in that fight. Any fight to increase, anyway, I'm going long enough. But anything that's pro-worker, I'm going to be on the front lines of Missouri helping pass. And thank you, Roger, for the comment there.
Just two things. Again, shout out to my colleague, Kira McCown, who actually did a coverage on Missouri's ballot initiatives. And then number two, you brought up in the red state of Missouri, you know, if we rewind back the clocks to 2016, there was a report, might have flew under everyone's radar, where Republican voters, I forget, people that were Republican voters were more than interested in supporting Bernie Sanders if it was Bernie versus Trump. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that. Like, hey, there was a good portion of Republican voters that would have voted for Bernie where it was Bernie versus Trump. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that we all have our individual perspectives and that we all agree on the same thing. When you look at these progressive policies, they're popular amongst voters, not parties or groups, voters. So, Nick, thank you so much for being with us here at Hard Lens Media. We're very grateful to have your support and also for you to be a guest on the show. And we invite you again to be back on our show. And if you're ever in Chicago, give us a knock. We'll be more than happy to give you a tour of our studio location here in the Windy City. So
I actually got plans to be in Chicago this year. Funny enough, we got to talk about that. So we talk about that.
And then you come here. You come here to our studio.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like maybe later this year. I actually do have plans on being in Chicago, so I gotta hit you up and we plan something. Okay. But anyway, anytime I gotta have you back on RBN. Always good to talk to you, kid.
All right, take care, my friend. All the best to you.